Manchester United won, Fiorentina won, with Manchester United eventually winning the game on penalties and securing another really important trophy. Of course, the result in these games doesn't really matter. The more important talking point is what we learn about Manchester United. And today I think there were some positives and some negatives. As always, it was a good challenge at a good time as we prepare for the start of the season. And today there's 5 things that I really want to focus on and sort of put a spotlight on from this performance. Now, the first thing that we're going to talk about is United in the first phase. I feel like we say this all the time, but Manchester United had a little bit of a problem. And the problem in this game was that we didn't really want to play out from the back and play too short and sort of play through the Fiorentina press. We didn't feel comfortable doing that. We've spoken about the reason behind that in the past. But what we chose to do instead was therefore to go long and direct, to go over it, to go past it. And I have absolutely no problem with that. I think going over the press is a really good option because it allows you to quickly gain territory. If you can drag the opposition forward onto you and then play over the top, that's a great thing for us to do. The problem we had in this game was that we didn't have a striker. We know that Benjamin Sesko has signed for the club, unveiled before the match. Great, can't wait to see him in the team. Rasmus Højlund sat this game on the bench. He didn't get on at all. Mason Mount is not a striker. He cannot play against big centre-backs, and this caused a bit of a problem. Because when we go long from the back from this position, we go long forward, the ball was just coming straight back, or, you know, the best case scenario really was that Fiorentina would win the header and knock the ball back to David De Gea. So this was a problem for United. We couldn't really get out from the back. To spin that, to look at the positive, we know that's going to change. Perhaps not next weekend. That might be a little bit too soon. But we know that Benjamin Sesko, if I can find him over here he is going to be coming into the team, and we know that he will bring something different. I'm going to do a little bit of content on this soon, so keep your eyes out for that. But we know that Sesko will change that. So a problem in this game that we were going long, but it wasn't sticking. We couldn't get close to the second ball. There were moments like this where we didn't even challenge the contact at all. But that should change, so something to learn, but also something that hopefully will be addressed. Before we get on to the next point, I'd just like to quickly ask you guys to subscribe, please. We're trying to hit 75,000 before the start of the season. We're so close. I think one big last push will get us there, so if you could please help out, that'd be great. On to point number 2 now, and that was Bruno Fernandes in midfield. He's been a little bit up and down in pre-season. He's had some games where he's looked really good on the ball. He sort of dictated the play for Manchester United. He's sped us up when we need to be sped up, and he's slowed us down at times. We've also seen other games where he's been a little bit too direct with the ball, moving the ball forward too quickly, and it has led to a slightly chaotic performance. I think what we saw in this game was the best of Bruno Fernandes in a deeper role. And that's a player that's going to complete his passes. And when Bruno completes his passes, he's an excellent passer, which sounds really obvious when I say it out loud. But we know that this man's passing range and his vision is phenomenal. It's about, does he connect with the teammate that he's trying to find? In this game, the answer to that was yes. And what it's allowed us to do was quite quickly access the wing-backs. And I think this is where Manchester United looked quite good, when we were able to move the ball forward quickly. That's been a theme throughout pre-season. The faster we play, the better we look. It's when we look at our most dangerous. And Bruno's long passing in this game is very useful. We also know that's why we like Casemiro in the team as well. This wasn't necessarily his best game in terms of his longer range passing, but we know that it's a useful weapon for United, particularly when we sort of draw the opposition over to one side and then we try and attack the other side. So that might, for example, involve building up possession down the left-hand side of the pitch. We've got Dorgu, we've got Cunha, we've got Bruno Fernandes, we've got Heaven. In fact, let's quickly mark these guys out. We've got this diamond of players over here in this position. We've got the 4 players in that zone. And of course, when you play with 4 close to each other, the opposition are drawn over to it. So Fiorentina are going to try and stop us playing in this area, so they get players towards this side of the pitch. And you know, here there is a reliance on the United players to show technical quality, to look after the ball, but I think we are building a more technical team. But importantly, what you need to be able to do is escape that little bit of pressure on this side and then find the switch. And I think Bruno Fernandes in this game, particularly in the first half, I would say, was really good at doing that. I think he sort of freed up Manchester United because we would overload this side of the pitch, we would draw them over, and then we've got that quick switch to the far side. And whether that's Ahmad on the right or sometimes then Dorgu on the left, I think United look good in those moments because it allows us to quickly access the wide areas. Something that we had problems with at times last season. It looked a bit better today, I felt, that we could get into those wide zones and attack Fiorentina and find the space. And I just felt that Bruno, but also the technical level of the team being raised, was the key to that. Now, I really do feel that United accessed the wide zones quite comfortably at times. The problem in this game was that we weren't that effective in the wide zones, and I think it's only right that we point this out. We've been very positive during pre-season so far. We've seen a lot of good stuff, But also, we've got to be realistic. We've got to manage expectations. And when something isn't quite working right, I think it's only natural and the right thing to do for us to point it out. And I had a slight issue with the dynamic on both sides of the pitch. In the case of Patrick Dorgu on the left, it felt like he didn't quite get up to speed in this game and that he never really got going. We spoke the other day about how him and Cunha can actually work really nicely together when they're combining with each other, when they're carrying the ball, when they're switching over and moving into different positions. In this game, the left side felt quite safe, I felt. I think Dorgu in particular was taking a lot of his touches just far too safe. He had moments where there's a bit of space in front of him that he could move into, but instead he's sort of taking that touch inside the pitch, he's slowing things down and playing it safe, which is good in moments. We need to manage tempo, we need to look after the ball. But there's other situations where I just feel that he could have got after the space and he didn't. Cunha, I think, was quite lively, particularly in the first half, perhaps tailed off as the game went on. But I think in the first half, when he was dropping into these deeper zones and carrying, he was a method of penetration for United. He was a way to move the ball forward. That's great to see. On the right-hand side is the more interesting conversation, because we have all had question marks about this side of the pitch all summer long. Amad and Bryan Mbeumo, two quality footballers. They're great players. However, some of their instincts are quite similar. They both feel like players that want to move out wide and then carry the ball inside. And the question mark all summer has been, how are they going to work together? In this game, I think we saw moments where it was quite nice. For example, Mbeumo might spin out wide like this, and that's going to create a little bit of space for Amad to drive into the pitch. I don't mind that at all. However, on certain other occasions, it didn't look quite right. It looked like almost they were making the same movement as each other. So they would perhaps both spin into the wide zone and leave us a little light in the middle. Or they would both come inside the pitch into these positions and leave us a little bit light out wide. Now, right now, it's not a massive problem. It's not a massive concern. Mbeumo is a brand new player at this football club. This is only his second match. He's not played a full match for us yet. And with Amad, we know that he's a good footballer. It's going to take time. It's going to take time. I said that from the very start when we signed Mbeumo. For him to work with Amad, it's going to be quite tricky. It's going to be quite intricate. The details are going to need to be important. And that doesn't happen overnight. So a concern there that they do share similar instincts that we were aware of when we signed them. So my hope is that if we already knew it, Amorim has hopefully planned ahead and knows the solution. Right now, a little bit stuck, but there's still obvious moments of quality. I mean, Mbeumo with his deliveries from the right-hand side, the way that he strikes a ball when he's crossing is really, really good. And I think more than anything, there's a bit of empathy on the way that he crosses. He doesn't just whack it into anywhere. He's always looking to dip it at that point where he knows his fellow attackers are going to be arriving. So, yeah, a few sticky moments down the right-hand side that definitely need a lot of work, but also obvious potential. I think the other thing that gives us obvious potential in the way that we play is the dynamic play that we see in the final third and the amount of running that we see. At times last season we looked a bit static. Bruno Fernandes would get the ball in a deeper position, for example. He'd get his head up, he'd look forward, and everyone would just be stood there looking at him like, go on Bruno, do something. We look a bit more dynamic now though. We look a bit more proactive, I would say. Like players are thinking ahead, so rather than reacting, they are proactive. They're making the move early. And what we're seeing is at times a really nice combination. Now I say at times because it's still not perfect. It's going to take time still to see this properly, to see it consistently. But I think there's moments where it's really nice the way that we vary our runs off of the ball. So we'll see one player coming towards the ball, for example, Mason Mount sort of operating as a false nine in this game. He's going to come towards the ball in this moment, and then we're going to see someone else running past. I think that's good because it's difficult for defenders to deal with. If we just quickly mark out the opposition defence, let's go along the back line like this. If you're Manchester United and you're making different runs off the ball, you start to make that defence more zigzag, like you can see here. So let's say the opposition start in a flat shape. Mason Mount comes towards the ball like this, and then Amad or Mbeumo, let's say, runs it in behind this way. You can see the way that that's going to manipulate the opposition defence. They don't quite know who they're going with. Are they going towards the ball with the players that are coming to feet, or are they dropping off to deal with the runners in behind? This is something that I feel that United really possess in this attacking line, and we saw it in this game. We know that Dorgu, throughout pre-season, has been a massive threat in behind down the left-hand side. Again, a player that can stretch the defence, but also someone who can come towards the ball. He can drop into these positions, drag players out, and that's when then Cunha, for example, perhaps has a bit more space to get into, like in a situation like this. Now, of course, again, it's still not perfect. It's going to take time. You can't just put new players into a system and expect it to work. We had Mason Mount up front. he's not a striker. So this was never going to be perfect in this game. But I think the glimpses are there. It looks fast. It looks dynamic, but it needs work still. It's weird. I want to be positive about it, but also there are concerns as well. Now, the final thing that I want to focus on is United in the final third when we're looking to attack. And we're going to ignore the defensive side of the game today because I know some people get bored of talking about that too much. We'll cover that another day because there are some good things and some bad things. But in terms of United on the ball, moving towards the final third, I really like the directional changes that we're seeing in this team. And I think directional changes are important for any team. And you guys know that I am probably too obsessed with what foot players are. We know that Cunha is a right-footed player playing on the left. We know that Mbeumo is a left-footed player playing on the right. I think this creates real potential for United to change the direction of the way that we attack, particularly if we move the ball forward quickly and then sort of set it back into midfield. So let's say, for example, it might be Casemiro with the ball, moving the ball into Mason Mount, who, again, was sort of like a false nine in this game. As he drops the ball back, let's say he passes to Mbeumo. So as he moves to Mbeumo, the ball is coming to the Manchester United right-hand side. Because Mbeumo is left-footed though, his instinct is to then take the ball back the other way towards the left-hand side. And to sort of highlight the importance of this again, I want to highlight the opposition defenders. And we're looking at the impact it has on them. So let's say Casemiro's got the ball, the opposition, let's say in this instance, are in a back five like so. We move the ball into Mason Mount. Of course, the opposition naturally step up. They hold their line like this to try and get nice and close to Mount to put him under pressure. What we then see is the ball being dropped off this way to Bryan Mbeumo. If we're doing that, the opposition have to react. Naturally, we might see this defender perhaps come out towards him, but more likely, we're going to see the whole defence shift over to this side of the pitch, because as a defensive unit, you want to be close to each other, you want to be tight, you want to reduce the gaps. But because Mbeumo's left-footed, playing on the right side, his first touch is going to take him back inside the pitch. So his touch actually takes the ball back this way. And let's say he might now pass to Matheus Cunha. Now the effect of that is that the opposition, let's say Cunha's a little bit wider, the opposition now shifts back over to that side. So they might now move back over here, like so. Cunha, though, is right-footed. So he's going to take his touch back inside and move the ball this way. And what you can see is that it's just constantly shifting the movement, the direction of the opposition. And as a defender, it's difficult to do. We spoke about this on the stream the other day, how many decisions defenders have to make in the space of about 3 seconds. It's ridiculous how much information they have to take in around them. It's in those moments where I think you can see gaps start to form. Right now, the United forwards aren't quite clicking. Again, they're new players playing with each other, so that's only natural. But I think when you've got good quality footballers like we've got now, so close to each other, you're going to see moments where it's really nice. And I think those directional changes, dropping the ball off to the right, but naturally then playing it to the left, to a player who naturally wants to bring it back to the right, is constantly going to shift these defenders up and down, left and right, into different positions. And that's where I think United, when we get it right, could be really, really dangerous this season. All in all, I think it was a bit of a mixed performance from Manchester United. There were obviously things that we did well and looked quite exciting compared to last season, particularly the new signings. But there's also a lot that we need to work on. We haven't even covered the defensive side today, and I think that was quite bad today. I wasn't impressed at all. So there's still a lot for Amorim to work on. We are improving, which happens when you sign good players, but also when you get more time on the training ground. Personally, I'm quietly optimistic about United this season. But this game proved that there is still a lot of work to do. I want to hear from you guys in the comments down below what that work is. What areas do we need to work on the most, particularly in possession, because that has been the focus for today's video. Where do you need to see United improving on the ball, and how can we do it? I'm really, really interested to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. So get down there and let me know what you think. Whilst you're down there, if you could please leave a like and subscribe, that would be greatly, greatly appreciated. But apart from that, I believe we are finished for today's video. Pre-season is over, and as is today's content. So thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed it. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next one.